This episode sponsored by Clio, cloud-based practice management software. Makes it easy to manage your law firm from intake to invoice. Try it for free at Clio.com. That's CLIO.com, CLIO.com.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of On the Road with Legal Talk Network. This is Christopher Anderson, and I am the host for today's show, which is being recorded on location at the 2019 Clio Cloud Conference here in San Diego, California. Joining me today is Sarah, Greig, and Madison Goddyn, both from Clio. I'd like to first of all welcome you to the show.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be talking to you. Before we get there, just because we're just getting to the top of the show here, just tell me a little bit about yourselves. We'll start with Sarah. What do you do with Clio? And tell a little personal thing.
Yeah. I'm a product manager at Clio. I've been with Clio for just about 2 years. And as a product manager, essentially what I do is understand the problems that our customers have and then work with our design and engineering teams to build solutions.
Cool. And we'll get to the topic in a minute, but this is a very particular problem that your customers have, and I'm really excited to talk about. Madison, what do you do with Clio?
Yeah, I'm a junior product designer. I actually work on the same team as Sarah. Okay. So I work with Sarah to help tackle those problems that our customers are having and design a solution for them. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you guys are giving a talk today about time tracking, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, it sounds like a very non-sexy topic to be talking about, like tracking time. Like lawyers hate tracking time, but it is so very, very important. Tell me a little bit about what you're going to present about today. What are you going to be talking about tracking time?
Yeah, so timekeeping 2.0, we're moving a bit beyond sort of the basics of how to track time in Clio and starting to look at drilling down a bit into billable and non-billable time. Mm-hmm. And then we also have some enhanced expenses that we're covering. But to your point about lawyers don't always love tracking time. Unless you do it, you can't really do anything with that information. So that's kind of what we're focused on.
Right. And what do you see, Madison or Sarah, it doesn't matter, what do you see as sort of the biggest hurdle that you're solving for that make lawyers not want to track their time? How are you solving for that pain of the experience?
Yeah, I think it's just, with non-billable time, we're trying to get lawyers to be able to track all hours of their day. In Jack's opening keynote, he talked about there's missing 5.6 hours from the legal trends report.
Also known as like 80% of your day, right?
Yeah. So it's like, where's that time going and what insights can you get from being able to track all of your time that can pinpoint where it's going and how to make those changes to be a more high-performing, more efficient firm. Yeah.
Right, which also then I guess would instill it more as a habit, right? If you're tracking all your time, you're not thinking, do I track this? Do I not track that? Are you talking about all your time, like potty breaks? Are we doing everything?
I would say what's most relevant to your business.
In doing kind of the discovery or the exploration of the customer problem, we talked to a lot of customers and had some very interesting use cases for the types of things they were doing. It's everything from, going to church to actually, going to a conference like ClioCon or anything like that as well.
Which gives them the ability to finally answer that question that really bugs a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, a lot of law firm owners, which is, what just happened to my day?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
What just happened to my day? But you say you're teaching this as 2.0. What are the non-1.0 things? Like, what are you really bringing to the conversation in your talk today?
Mm-hmm. The types of things that we're focusing in on our presentation is sort of that if you want to actually do things with all of the information, you can't really drive any insights until you know exactly what's going on.
Right.
And so what we're focused on is really capturing that initial time in order to do something with it. So in Jack's keynote, he also mentioned the new firm dashboard that's coming out. So that is sort of the non-billable time's like the precursor that allows something like that to exist. And until you start tracking all of that time, you can't really do anything with it.
Yeah, unless you have the data, you can't build any reports.
Yeah, exactly.
If anything, what have you done as product designer and product manager for a timekeeping application that makes it less painful to track all your time? I mean, so I think you've made a great case for the why. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about how you're making the how better.
So we have several different ways that non-billable time works depending on what kind of matter you're using. So for a billable hourly matter, you're probably going to want to most of the time bill that time, so it's not defaulting to non-billable. But if you're working on flat rate and you want to just understand the cost input you're putting in, we default the time to non-billable to help just track that time quickly at your normal billing rate. Prior to having this new feature, users were able to still track that time, but at a rate of $0. So now we're giving them the ability to see, okay, if I were going to charge for this time, like how much of my value how much of my time and how much cost input am I putting into this flat rate to measure it against the profitability for what you're charging for that flat rate. Am I working too much? Am I working too little? Is that rate where I want it to be?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And is there an automation to it so that like you say you're trying to track everything. So if they're going to a meeting, if they're doing administrative work, how are they capturing that time now?
So any time can be captured in Clio via the timer just simply by clicking the button. It's just one action to start that timer. And like Madison said, with the flat fee matters in particular, by having any of your hourly work automatically default to non-billable, you can then just very clearly compare. If I charge $2,000 for this matter, but I did $3,000 worth of non-billable categorized work for that, that's actually not a profitable matter. I need to either start looking at how can I run my practice more efficiently, what can I maybe delegate to someone else, or even just what types of work is really profitable for the firm. If you find a specific type of matter in a specific practice area is actually going to drive more revenue for your firm and give you a better profit margin, then you can go and focus on that.
And you can't even know that profit margin, right, unless you know the input at the time.
Yeah.
So that's so key. One of the headaches that a lot of lawyers have talked to me about, because I'm out there cracking the whip with my clients and other people about got to track your time, got to track your time, got to track your time. And one of the pain points they say is that's all well and good, but like I get distracted. Like I'm working on project A, then someone comes to talk to me about project B, then a client calls about project C, and meanwhile project A is still ticking. Multitasking, which I'm an opponent of, I don't believe in multitasking, but lawyers do it. How, in your time tracking solution, how do you account for that? How do you manage that multitasking environment?
So it's really easy to start and stop timers in Clio. We also have several integration partners that do some passive timekeeping so that they can, at the end of the day be like, oh, you spent some time in this document or in this email. Do you want to actually assign a time entry to that? So it's kind of a combination of the solution that we've built and then the relationships we've built with our partners as well.
And to add to that, for convenience sake, like this non-billable time tracking is also available in the new mobile app, so you can do it from wherever you are. Like you can whip out your phone and start tracking time right then and there. Yeah,
that's really important for that. What are like some of the key outputs you're expecting to have in the dashboard? That once the people are being really good about the time, what's the payoff? What do they get to see in the dashboard that's going to be helpful to them in running their business?
So drilling down deeper into that utilization rate and ultimately kind of going through that whole
Can you just
funnel.
in case people didn't watch Jack's keynote, can you describe what utilization rate and realization rate are?
If you picture a funnel, we've got utilization at the top, and this is all of the billable productive time that you're doing in a day-to-day. And then realization is that billable time that actually makes it onto a bill, and then collection is the collection rate is obviously the time that you actually get paid for.
Right.
And so in order to get paid for that time at the bottom of the funnel, you need to first actually track and know exactly where all your time is going.
And then, of course, like you also mentioned, that you would also learn about the profitability of practice area A, practice area B, practice area C. You mentioned it in the guise of flat rates. Am I making money if I charge $2,000 for this? Am I making money? And if I charge $2,000 for A and $2,000 for B, is one of them more profitable than the other? The answer is always yes. One of them is always more profitable than the other, but which one? And is it the one you thought? Often no. But I think the third category that I see a lot of lawyers bump into is I spent 4 hours on this, but I only feel comfortable billing for less, 2 hours, 3 hours, because I wasted time, I made a mistake or whatever. Can they see that by using your time too? Can they mark something as billing less than they actually put the time in?
So if you wanted to do that, you could absolutely capture, go through your day, capture all your time entries, and then when you decide, okay, maybe I should actually be writing this down as 2 hours instead of 3, you can just change the value for that for 2 and then have that 1 hour be marked as non-billable. So you can absolutely see the difference there.
But even though, because what I think one of the banes is like when you mark it down, it looks like, oh, I only worked 4 hours today, right? Mm-hmm. But you're saying that in this program, in the way it's built, it would track it as 2 hours billed, 1 hour non-billable, and so I know that my inputs were 3 hours and that my profitability went down because some of it wasn't billable?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And you can use things like activity categories or even just like write in your description in order to kind of customize the time entry and make sure you're, at the end of the day, when you go back and try to audit exactly what you did, you've got a record of that.
Yeah, well, really, really cool. What's the resistance you're still seeing to tracking time?
So for the purpose of what we were focusing on, the majority of the customers we were talking to really understood the value of tracking time, and they were struggling to do so because of the lack of non-billable option, and particularly that lack of rate. Because when you don't have your rate, how do you possibly understand the opportunity cost of your time?
Sure.
There's also a lot of customers talked about understanding the productivity of the staff in their firm. So especially, if you look at a little bit of a larger law firm, you kind of need to know exactly what everyone's doing at any given time of the day. Potentially there's opportunities to coach people and help them learn to work a little bit more efficiently or share the load a little bit better across the firm. But the customers we were engaging with were pretty motivated to do this. We just needed to figure out a way to help them do it better.
Sure. And we've been talking to a large extent about lawyers in the first person, like how we're making this easier for lawyers to do for themselves. Mm-hmm. But I think you brought up a really good point in that it's really about managing their team. Mm-hmm. And I think what you said was it's really important to know what they're doing all day. But I can certainly see that if we make it easier for the team, we actually give them the power to understand what they're doing all day and to work on more profitable things. Are you seeing that as one of the solutions?
Yeah, I think that for anyone, being able to manage and delegate tasks effectively is a struggle. And so this is one way that you can see, okay, if X person is taking this long to do data entry, maybe that's best with person B because we know that they're really great at that kind of stuff, and just being able to move tasks around for different firm members and to play their strengths and improve that efficiency overall, yeah.
And then the one other thing I wanted to ask about is in tracking time, one of the things I see going on in law firms all the time is the wrong people doing the wrong work. So in other words, associates doing work that really should be done by paralegals, or junior associates doing work that really should be done by senior associates. Or my pet peeve, or I think the best example of it is lawyers standing at the copy machine waiting to make copies. Can this be used as a tool to sort of make sure that work's being done at the right level?
Absolutely.
How so?
So you can, every time entry that you add to Clio, billable or non-billable, you can export into a CSV and see on a per user basis exactly what's being done. And so if you see your attorney, doing 3 hours of copier work a week, it's an opportunity to pause and ask why, and potentially go have a conversation or reevaluate that situation.
Have you ever considered any gamification aspects of time tracking and timekeeping?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, the leaderboard idea. I think it's something we've discussed. It's not something that we've got any plans to address anytime soon right now.
Have you heard any feedback from that idea among the lawyers?
I think it's a kind of thing that just depends on the culture of the law firm. Like some firms are going to be really competitive or happy to gamify those sorts of things, and others maybe not so much. So we'd need to evaluate and see where the fit would be.
What's the utilization rate right now that in the Clio legal trends?
33%.
33%. So 66%, 2/3 of the time are not being realized. Now, a lot of lawyers will say, yeah, but I'm single-handed, and a lot of that's going to admin work. And I guess what you're giving them is a tool to see if that's really true.
Yeah, exactly.
Presuming it's not, or presuming that some of that admin work shouldn't be being done by lawyers, do you see this as a way to unlock the ability for lawyers to reach out and help more people that are walking around thinking that they can't afford legal services? Because the way I'm thinking about it is if, let's say we could just say, you know what, you're not spending 2/3 of your time doing admin work, you're spending 1/3 of your time not doing anything. Really seriously, watching the paint dry or doing things you shouldn't be doing, right? Doing things that should be done by a paralegal or by an admin. We could really help them to unlock that time and drive that utilization rate up. It'll never be 100%, but to say 67%.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely reasonable goal. And I think, again, it sort of comes down to until you really track it, you're ignorant. You don't really know what to do with any of the information until you have it. So hopefully they'll still give customers an opportunity to see, what they could be doing better and what they could, maybe think a little bit harder about.
So if let's start with Madison. If you had a message, you both have been talking to these lawyers and in designing this product. If you had a message for them now that you've developed this tool that's really useful for being able to do this, what would you tell them over the next year to help them really improve their business? How could they use this tool to really improve their business?
Yeah, I would say, honestly, track everything. Greater Insights gives you greater understanding into your firm in a variety of different ways, and really make use of these new features that we're bringing out, because we're bringing them out to improve all of our users' day and the way they run their business. So to track everything, use the reports that we've given you, and that should give you like a huge improvement over the year into those insights that you can make changes for.
Excellent. Sarah, what would you add to that?
You kind of hit it on the head earlier talking about habit building. It can be difficult to sort of change your habit and start tracking this time if you weren't previously, but as you do it more, and don't forget about it, like actually do the export, start, play with some pivot tables, see what you can find.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll learn something new and hopefully that creates that positive feedback loop and you can keep doing it and then start getting a little bit more sophisticated about the type of reporting that you're going to do.
Fantastic. I personally am very excited that you guys are building tools to help lawyers get over this huge hurdle, that huge perceived hurdle that they have, and so that they can get this data together and really improve their business. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so
And it
much.
looks like we have reached the end of the road for our episode, and I want to thank Sarah and Madison for joining us today. If our listeners have questions or wish to follow up, how can they reach you guys?
Feel free to connect on LinkedIn. You can find me, Sarah Greig, and I'm happy to continue the conversation.
And that's the same with me as well. Madison Goddyn on LinkedIn, yeah.
And it's Goddyn for
Goddyn, yeah.
And Greig, let's spell yours too.
Greig is Greig.
Fantastic. Sarah Greig and Madison Goddyn, thank you so much. Also, thanks to our listeners for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please rate and review us in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app. And again, I'm Christopher Anderson, and until next time, thank you for listening.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.